Kathy's POV. Abby, I emptied everything from my closet, jumbling all my clothes up into a heap. Have you seen my belt? The heart metal one? Look at your waist, she yelled from upstairs. I landed my gaze on my waists. The belt was loosely around my waist, and my big fat belly overhung my belt. Making a deep sigh, I tightened my belt an extra notch. Although I was unwilling to face it, I had to admit that I was overweight. I studied my reflection in the long mirror that was attached to the closet. I was wearing a floral dress. It was tailored, not because I was rich, but because there wasn't my size in the shop. However, I still looked like wearing a carpet. I guessed it must because my weight was 238 pounds, while my height was only 5.6 inches. My eyes traveled to my head. I had dark red hair that I had inherited from my mom and big blue eyes that I gained from my dad. But I had to wear a pair of ugly black frame glasses to cover my beautiful eyes as I was short-sighted. I touched my chubby cheeks. I wasn't a beauty, but I was dying to become a beauty. And I had become a beauty in my dreams 1,000 times. In my dream, every boy wanted to try to hook up with me, an incredibly gorgeous girl. By doing nothing, I would become the topic of discussions, and my mate would feel it was his great honor to be my mate. He would give me a bouquet of roses and say he loves me on a starry night. Yes, I was a werewolf, but being a werewolf like me was unlucky. Underage she-wolf remained in human shape. I didn't know how I would look like in wolf shape when I became an adult. But now, I was the fattest one in a group of pretty she-wolves in human shapes who had both a curved figure and fairy-like face. The only light in my dullest life was my mate. Although he didn't show up yet, I had been waiting my whole life to meet him. It's a rule that every wolf would have a mate. Once you met, you could recognize him at the first sight, and he would regard you as his everything. He would treat you well with all his efforts. Kathy, hurry up! Abby blew the table loudly to press me. In a rush, I grasped my backpack and ran to the living room. Abby laid face down on a sofa, nibbling popcorn while typing on her phone. Look at the giggle on her face. She must be chatting with her mate. Heck, Abby had found her mate. This little bitch. I didn't mean that I hated her mate, the guy named Jasper. But they were so lovey-dovey, I just couldn't stand it. The last time when I walked into her room, I ran into Day 2 Bear, doing dirty things. You know, when I heard the moan from Abby, I got goosebumped all over. Go! I grasped her popcorn and put it on the table. Wait for a moment. The last sentence. She fastened her texting. I grabbed her cell phone suddenly and rushed out. Kathy, you bitch, she roared and followed me. Anyway, we got to our destination in 8 minutes. Kathy, here came a lean and athletic guy who looked very boyish with short hair. However, her voice was sweet. Yes, her. She was my lesbian friend Carol, but don't worry, I wasn't her type. How's everything going, my cute kitten? She asked. Embraced by her bear hug, I returned with a big smile. Good, how about you? Your new short hairstyle looks simply great. I like it to death. She fixed her hair while gave me the answer. You know, Ms. Lillian is such a skunk. What happened? I asked. In her math class, We walked and she kept talking. When she shared her stories with me, I enjoyed it all the time. Well, no, not all the time. It occurred several times that her story had no end. After waving my hands to her, we parted as we had different classes. However, I felt someone shove me that I couldn't control my body falling. Ouch! Looking up, I found it was Bella. Not a surprise. If there was a contest to vote for the top one bitch in my school, I would pick her without any hesitation. I've told you guys, the floor would shake every time she falls. See? Her little team, a group of silly girls, burst out laughing. I tried to stand up. For me, an ugly fat she-wolf. Such kind of school bullies happened every day. Wow, the fatty pig got up. Again, Bella shoved me heavily. I hold back my tears. Just some silly tricks, I told myself. I used to fight them back. But soon on I realized that they would be happier if I fought back. The only thing I could do was staying silent. Boring. Where are your screams and curses? Bella chuckled. I said nothing. Maybe my silence annoyed her that she yanked me up. I had no idea what she intended to do, but my instinctive reaction was to resist. I grabbed her hands. But what I did was just in vain. Her cronies just slapped my face and pulled my hands. In their pushing and shoving, my skirt ripped along a seam in the waist. No. I quickly covered my body with my hands, but I couldn't control my body falling. However, I didn't fall as I had imagined, because a strong arm had encircled my waist that stopped my falling. A handsome face entered my eyes. It was Sidney, who should be the next alpha. I'd never seen him in reality, but I had seen him in the group photo of my sister Abby's grade. He's Abby's classmate. The wolf in my body became excited. Mate, she was roaring. Sidney's eyes also widened, as if he was shocked by his wolf. I bet his wolf also recognized me. I finally met my mate, when I had got into this pathetic mess. Embarrassment and surprise brooded me at the spot. However, he took his arms back at once, and the shock in his eyes was replaced by disgust. I quickly steadied myself while he hesitated for a second, and threw his coat to me. I grasped his coat, tried to find a word to greet, but he had already stepped away, leaving no words. Wait. Shouldn't he save me from the bully and accept me as his mate? I watched his figure receded. Bella and her cronies continue making fun of me with vicious words. But all my attention was focused on Sidney. Why did he leave? Why did I only see disgust in his eyes? Was I indeed a loser that even my mate hated me? But why did he throw his coat to me? He cared about me, right? There hadn't been any she-wolf was refused by her mate in our pack before. He couldn't refuse me. Right? I tried to wear his coat to hide the torn skirt. However, I was too fat that I failed to throw my arms into the small sleeves. Again, I realized I was so fat. Worrying that I would crack Sidney's coat, I could only tie his coat on my waist. Kathy's POV. I didn't know how I get to my classroom, but I did sit down on my seats for Ms. Lillian's math class. Numbers and calculations were what I hated the most. However, I had to attend this course because it was compulsory. I had already known that even my parents disliked me. They preferred to take Abby with them when there was a party in the pack, because I wasn't their ideal daughter, a good-looking she-wolf. But Sidney was my mate. He should be the one who loved me unconditionally. Was there anything wrong? Maybe you needed a talk first, my wolf suggested. However, there was another voice in my head, kept telling me that Sidney hated the fact he was my mate. Whatever. I couldn't receive the rose as I dreamed in a short time. The bell sounded for the end of the class. Leaving the classroom, I decided to figure out where he was killing his time. I walked upstairs to the classroom which belonged to senior students, and I saw Sidney, Abby, and some other students gathered. It seemed that they're discussing their group project. One of their group members noticed I coming. Hey, fatty, what do you want? He asked and looked at me with an evil leer. Looking at his face, I was sure that I didn't know him. Anyway, he looked like a silly potato that I ignored him. Gathering all my courage, I landed my gaze on Sidney. Could you give me several minutes? I grasped the hem of his coat due to nervousness. For what? He stood up from his seats with his arms twisted. Although he wore an oversized blue t-shirt, I could see his muscle tensed with his movement. He truly had a good figure. I felt like that I had no space to place my hands that I clenched a fist. Whatever, I was running out of courage. I want to ensure if you are my mate, I mumbled, trying to lower my voice. I wished that Sidney could be only one who heard my voice. However, the laughter broke up my wish. All the students, except Abby, roared with laughter, including Sidney. How could he laugh? He was my mate. His laughter broke my heart. Never say stupid, I am not your mate. His words, full of disgusting, followed his laughter. Your fat ass and elephant waist are quintuples of your sister's, especially when you swang like a hot air balloon. I'm afraid your wolf has difficulty to go out of your pumpkin belly. He didn't even give me a glance when he said it coldly. Get out. He decided to end this conversation. The feeling like that I had been trapped in the snow and finally waited for a person who carried a blanket. I thought he would rescue me. I yelled for help, gathering my wits, but he just went away with laughter. His cold behavior just made me wonder if he was the knight that I'd dreamed of. I thought he would be a guy who gave his heart to me unconditionally, but he turned out to be a jerk who was fond of body shaming. "But you're my mate, and you gave me your coat." I murmured the truth. His gaze landed on me, but his eyes were narrowed, rigid, cold, and hard. At that moment, I realized he had never regarded me as his mate. Impossible to the earth. "I am not your mate, and no one will be your mate. You're just a fatty whose legs are even as big as my waists, and your dotted face only reminded me of moldy strawberries. I couldn't imagine there would be someone who has to be your mate. I gave my coat to you just because I didn't want to see your muffin top. Sick it." Incredible attack this time. The dummy potato clapped for Sidney's words. He said the truth. What he said was a wicked attack that hurt me the most. I had no effort to defense. I was totally stunned that I forgot to move. It aroused the dummy's attention that he pointed to me with his finger. "Haven't you understood, Tank? Get out." He even pushed me suddenly. Carelessly, I banged into a shelf heavily that I fell. And the shelf collapsed with all the woods and semi-finished wooden furniture had fallen to my body. Heck, the class they had just finished was a crafts class. The world rushed by in a blur and faded until there was nothing, only stars twinkling in front of my eyes. I knew the pain was coming. Finally, the stars disappeared. Now, what I saw was darkness. Without looking, I knew my head was bleeding. I could hear someone was shouting, "What on earth did you do?" It was Sidney. I could feel that many students flooded over to and gathered. Oh, why did I still see the vast darkness? I couldn't move. Someone grasped my arm and yelled, Kathy, it's Abby." Her voice was so anxious. "Help, find Dr. John." "Dr. John? Would I be sent to the Pack hospital?" Someone hugged me and lifted me. It was Sidney. I could feel the spiritual connection. Then I remembered that he said it was impossible for him to be my mate and no one would. Well, would it be possible when I was in heaven? Would someone be my mate? I meant, in heaven, I would be wrapped in God's perfect love, and my soul should be beautiful and healthy. There would be angels who loved me, wouldn't it? Feeling in my body drained away until finally, all was nothing. Kathy's POV. Heck, I ran into a car and my bones were broken. I tried to move my arms, only to hear my bones rattle. The huge pain crashed me. Rubbing my head, I opened the eyes, only to see the white ceiling of my room. Eek, it was just a dream. But the pain was true? What happened? Kathrine. Abby called my name gently. I hadn't heard such a gentle voice for a long time. I meant, we often quarreled after we grew up. Why did she call me in this way? My gaze landed on her. No, them. Abby and Jasper. They were sitting together, with Abby's arms on Jasper's neck and her butt on his lap. The fact was that I didn't believe they matched each other. You know, Abby was the kind of girl that shone like diamonds. She should be the focus of the crowd wherever she went. Pretty, smart, and diligent, she was the type who would always gain A+ in class. But Jasper was a bad boy who was usually late for class. He had the body of an adult werewolf, but the stupid mind of a child. But when Abby knew Jasper was her mate, she fell in love with him unconditionally. Are you all right? She stood up on noticing my gaze. Jasper also gave me a concerned glance. My eyes traveled back to Abby. Wait, why were her eyes full of guilt? All of a sudden, what happened before flashed in my mind. She merely stood there when I was mocked. She remained unmoved when the silly potato shoved me. She did nothing. She could have stopped her stupid classmates when I got hurt. And I may have died just because she chose to be a coward. Tears burst forth like water from a dam, spilling down my face. Is the wound hurting, sis? Should I call the nurse? She anxiously asked, touching my forehead to ensure if I was burning. I am not your sister. I waved my head to avoid her hands and roared at her. I didn't believe she could call me sis after what I suffered today. Fear showed in her eyes, and she stepped backward. Kathy? You did nothing. I didn't look at her anymore. I closed my eyes, wishing to hold back my tears. You just did nothing while I was shoved to hit my head. I didn't mean that you should fight against these bastards for me. But at least you should dig me out from these wooden crafts. It could be only a conclusion that I am not your sister. I heard her sob. I peeped at her, whose face was covered with tears. Jasper stood behind her, patting her shoulder. Kathy. Her voice sounded so sad. But it was she who did wrong in the beginning. Beat it, I murmured. She just stood there like a statue. Finally, I made up my mind and shouted, Go, beat it. It's time she left and took Jasper with her. Fine, only me now. The loneliness swirled around my bed, and my head swam in the fire burning inside. I thought by meeting my mate, I would embrace someone who loves me. However, I was only to find that I was completely and utterly alone in this world. Nobody loved me. Nobody. I should know it already. I should know it when my mother refused to bring me with her to attend the party. I should know it when my father scorned me just because I wanted to hug him. And I used to believe Abby loved and concerned about me. But it turned out to be that she didn't. No, there was someone I could trust. Quickly, I grasped my cell phone, which was put near my pillow. Such an easy movement even made my wound ache. I opened the contact lists and picked the familiar name. Joy? I asked once the phone was connected. Lambkin? Again, this silly nickname. SOS, Joy, I'm in trouble. Only you can help me. 10 minutes later. Gosh, Fatum was flying ahead. My dear Joy, I was coming. Just now, I told my dearest Joy about all my grievances, and she agreed to share her room with me. I could leave there, a place full of sorrow and disappointment. Ignoring the pain in my head, I carefully crawled out of bed at tortoise speed. It's hard, but I made it. A good start. Here came the packing. Luckily, I didn't have much luggage. The most important thing was the money I collected in the past years. After throwing my clothes into the suitcase, I decided to get the spare key of Abby's car. Yes, my parents only bought a car for Abby. I fled to the living room and opened the drawer gently. Before I ferreted around for the key, I heard someone was yelling. The voice came from Abby's room. I glanced at the door, which was closed. Are you crazy, Abby? It wasn't my fault. Wait, it was Sidney. Why was he here, in Abby's room? It wasn't your fault. Abby was roaring. It was the first time that I heard her voice was full of anger. I meant she had a good manner, especially in speaking. Oh, I found you, my little T. But was it right to leave Abby just for she chose to be a coward this time? I hesitated for a second. Yes, it's right. It wasn't the first time she didn't shoulder her responsibility as a sister. I came back to my room. It's you who ruined our relationship. She said she isn't my sister anymore. Abby's voice was crying. Honey, we're solving it. Don't cry. Jasper was trying to comfort Abby. So what? You want me to beg for her forgiveness? Intensely, I felt the pressure. It came from the alpha's anger. Not a good idea to stay here. I determined to leave. But when I grasped my suitcase in hand, I realized that I couldn't leave it so easily. I should leave a note. Otherwise, Abby might mistake that I was missing and even reported the pack. I put my note on my bed. Okay, I admitted that I just didn't hope she worried about me. I sneaked out of my room. They were still arguing. I'll make an apology. Are you satisfied now? Sidney seemed to give in. Okay, you can do it now. No, someone was opening the door. I should go. I rushed out. When I finally reached the car, I heard Sidney was yelling Abby's name. When I placed my suitcase and sat on the driver's seat, I heard Abby roaring, Kathy. I just turned the key and made the engine ignite as I felt I was so determined. On driving the car out of the garage, I clocked Abby in the driving mirror. I noticed her face was covered with her tears, and she held my note in hand. But I just tried my best to ignore her. I didn't stop driving out. Abby was running after my car, but she finally disappeared from my driving mirror. Gosh, I made it. Nobody could find me now. I left without giving any hint. You may wonder, what did I write on my note? It was just a simple sentence. Time to leave. Kathy's POV. 1 year later, Joy watched me open my gift, tension playing over her kind features. "What is it? Why do you look so serious?" I asked. An answer had already occurred in my mind, but I wasn't sure. "Just open it," Joy said with a pair of encouraging eyes. I untied the bow and unwrapped the gift box. A red ruffle sleeveless top and tight jeans shorts. On the first day I left, I made a promise that I must turn beautiful. I made a resolution that I must achieve 20 goals. And the 20 goals all pointed to one target. I could become the one slim enough to wear dresses of Brandy Melville. Am I slim enough? I can't believe it. Grasping the clothes in my hand, I felt I was a little nervous. "Just try it. You're 108 pounds now," Joy encouraged. "Yeah, it was me. The clothes fit well, making my figure a perfect hourglass." My dark red hair fell down my back that I have it waved. My lips were carefully tinted red, and my skin was flawless. I still remembered the moment when Joy took my glass off. "Your blue eyes shone like the sapphire on the crown. You shouldn't hide it." And she handed me contact lenses. Later, we visited the hospital. A doctor had prepared me a well-designed plan to help me lose weight and become more healthy. I was told my dotted face was also caused by obesity. In the past days, I said no to everything covering high sugar, high fat, and high salt. I struggled against the bulge. Meanwhile, I had to continue eating some white pills, and I had to visit the doctor by season to get them. I'd lost everything I thought made my life bearable, and I was more alive than ever. "You look like a magazine cutout dropped into my room," Joy praised and handed me a cake. I can't eat it, I tried to refuse. But the buttery aroma of the madeleines wafted under my nose. "A reward for yourself. You really did a good job," Joy said. "If you didn't try the most famous cake in this city now, you will regret it when we leave." "Why? I mean, we don't plan to leave, do we?" But I took the cake and gave it an experimental bite. The spongy layer gave way to teeth so easily, and lemon curd oozed into my mouth. Oh gosh, it had been a year since I ate cake last time. My taste buds wanted to sing under the tangy flavor. "No, we're leaving, Lambkin." Joy glanced at me. "We need to move." "But where?" I was shocked and I stopped eating, putting the cake aside. "Your hometown." Her calm voice threw a bomb on me. "What? Why?" "My hometown gave me nothing except bad memories and malice. There wasn't any werewolf who was nice to me." "My cute lambkin, do you remember why you come to my home?" She crossed her arms and stared at my eyes. Of course, I remembered it. To leave a place where no one loved me. At present, I could face this sad fact bravely. You knew these werewolves just hated and bullied me. Doesn't Abby love you? Joy understood me well. Although Abby chose to be a coward, she concerned about me, at least much better than my parents. It isn't the true reason. She forced me to recall the fact I dared not to face yet. Because I was refused by my mate. Every time I recalled what happened that day, I still felt there was a knife in my heart. Why did he refuse you? Why, Lambkin? Gosh, I didn't want to say it, but meeting Joy's gentle eyes, I finally felt encouraged. I murmured, because he thought I was an ugly fatty who worthy nobody's love. Joy sat down on the packed luggage and looked at me. So that's the key, honey, she continued. Recall what you have done in the past year. You stole Abdi's group photo when you chose to leave. And now, the photo was in your pocket. You always lost your thought when you stared at it. Yes, she was right. In the past year, I couldn't stop missing him. I couldn't stop imagining that we might already become a couple if I was a beauty when I met him. But the more I wanted was to revenge. I couldn't forgive him. I stared at his picture to remind myself. He was a jerk that I needed to make him pay, and you desired a shift, don't you? My heart ached. Again, she said the truth. The he-wolf was born with the ability to shift in their puberty, while the she-wolf couldn't complete the shapeshift alone while. The she-wolf must be marked by the he-wolf. If I couldn't be marked by Sidney, I would remain in a human shape and just live like a human being. a stronger one. Joy, I just don't want to be refused for the second time. And I don't like to stay with my family. You know, sometimes it seems that I'm invisible to them. I complained. I wasn't prepared to face my family and revenge on Sidney. About your family, I have something to tell you. There was a hint of sadness in her voice. What happened to them? To Abby, Mom and Dad? Slowly, she said, your dad abandoned your mother and kicked her out. Oh my God, what on earth did everything happen? I shouted. Joy stared at me. You know my brother. He was much too prim and proper. No one could reach his requirement as a good mate. I knew it. Now pack your bags, we'll leave. There was nothing I need to scare. I encouraged myself in my mind. Everything would be better. I was pretty beautiful now. By the way, there'll be a dance ball where Sidney will participate. I think it's the best chance for you two guys meet. Suddenly, Joy said when I was going to pack my luggage. What should I do in the ball, Joy? I was a little anxious. I would meet Sidney again. How should I start the revenge? First, become the eye-catcher in the dancing pool, Joy said, and she looked like she had a card up her sleeve. Although you are already freaking beautiful, you also need to show off your beauty. Second, reject all the guys who want to dance with you, but give them your charming smile. Third, if Sidney becomes interested in you and asks you for dance, reject him either. I promise his curiosity will be excited, and that will be a good start of your revenge. An evil smile occurred on Joy's face. Last but not least, never let him discover who you are. Yes, thanks to these white pills I ate, my wolf currently became inactive, so I got the chance to hide my identity. So, when I was at the party, I did all I should. I swayed in the dancing pool for a while, and I could feel there were many gazes focused on me. I refused all the he-wolves who wanted to hook me. Although I was extremely curious about Sidney, I didn't even take a glance at him. And now, I just pretended that I sat beside Sidney at random. How would he respond to me? When I stepped closer to him, I couldn't stop thinking. What if he recognizes it is you at the first sight? My wolf suddenly said. She had been extremely quiet these days. Impossible to death, I said. I mean, he never regarded me as his mate. He must not even look at me carefully and remember how I was like. This was the first time I could look at him after the whole year had passed. I mean, my mate became even better. He grew taller and stronger. His tousled dark brown hair was thick and lustrous. He had dark eyebrows, while his eyes were ocean blue. At this moment, his eyes were covered with steam, like the mist among the ocean. While I was still staring at his face, he stood up and threw his arms on my waist. And his hug was so tight. His hoarse voice mumbled, "Kathy." Oh, my moon goddess. I felt all of my emotions were out of my control, and my heartbeat was fast. How could he recognize me? I had changed a lot. I didn't know how to react. I even didn't know how did I feel, happy or mad. My wolf started to roar. Red warning. You want to give up revenge in the last second. Shut up, I didn't. Then I asked her carefully, did his wolf greet you? Has he known I am Kathy? But Sidney mumbled again. His voice became clearer. Kathy, I miss you. Sidney's POV. Yesterday I participated in a dance ball. It was so boring. You knew, it was a business ball that most of my friends couldn't join in. And I just got so drunk and forgot anything. Help, I got injured. Someone came. But Abby ignored me. Heck, I could only watch myself turn into a box in PlayerUnknown's battlegrounds. Damn, Abby even looped me. Abby refused to talk with me since Kathrine left a year ago, and she treated me with hatred. The last time when we had a gym class, she hit my head with a basketball. She said it was an accident, but I knew it wasn't. I knew she didn't forgive me yet. It was me who did wrong and should take responsibility for Kathy's leaving. My brain fried up at that time. It was no excuse, I know. I owned my behavior. I gave her only my anger and malice. In my heart, I retracted all the hurting words I ever said. They were never a true reflection on her. It was just my inner demon. Eventually, I saw what she meant all along. I missed her so much. When I was going to sleep, I thought of her chubby cheek. It was cute. When I took a lunch break, I remembered her brilliant eyes. They were covered by glasses, but still beautiful. My phone vibrated. It's my mom. Mom? Actually, I didn't like it when I had to communicate with her, because she was seldom concerned about my life. She only commanded me like a senior instead of loving me as a mother. Come back in an hour. There is something I need you to present. She didn't even give me a second to answer yes or no. Such a bitch. Sorry guys, I have something important to leave. I sat up. Other guys all gave me smile or nodded their heads, but Abby just ignored my words, as she always did. Abby's POV. I didn't save Sidney. He didn't say anything. I didn't think I did wrong. He made Kathy leave, and I just didn't save him in a game. What I did wrong was that I didn't protect my sister well. I just desired her to come back. I backed to my home. Life was in a mess after Kathy left. My dad became a jerk that my mom couldn't bear him anymore and left. It was his drinking that bust up his marriage. Every day when I backed home, I could only see empty wine bottles and drunk father. One night I quarreled with him and I said something hurting. But he finally understood what he did. Later, he devoted himself to his career and hardly went home, so I invited Jasper to share my room. Oh, he was standing in front of me currently. I could feel his spicy scents. He wrapped an arm around my shoulders. Why didn't you call me to pick you home, honey? I gently rubbed his arms. The cyber cafe is very close. There were times that I felt myself was like a butterfly who yearned for the cocoon, to be safe with walls, protected, and Jasper became the wall when Kathy and my parents left. Ding dong, someone pressed the doorbell. Would it be Sidney again? He always found an excuse to visit me and asked if Kathy had come back. In the beginning, I was a sister filled with bitterness I couldn't control. Sometimes I believed I was going to ruin Sidney. I was going to see that he paid. I had been so mean to him, but he apologized and never fought back. Finally, I could only sigh and ignore him. To my surprise, the person who knocked on the door wasn't Sidney. She was a young girl. She landed her gaze on me and said, "Morning?" A kindly twinkle came into her eyes, but I didn't believe I knew her, although she looked friendly and a bit familiar. I waited for her to tell me what she wanted, but she was visibly hesitating that she only mouthed something. But I was running out of my patience. The tenderness and shrewd understanding in my manner had already disappeared when Kathy left. "What on earth do you want?" I shouted. Kathy's paw. "What on earth do you want?" my sister yelled at me. I was totally stunned. I meant, the girl standing before me didn't look like Abby at all. She looked so terrible. There used to be starlights in her eyes, but now I couldn't find it. She was still a beauty, but she was like a puppet without a soul. Was it me who made her so sad? I asked myself. Hello? I smiled and flicked a nervous glance at him. I realized that I even gave a nervous giggle. "Who the hell are you?" She stared at me with a probing gaze. Before I gave an answer, I heard a man's voice. "Honey, who's here?" It was from Jasper. He also came to the door. "Who is this little beauty?" I saw a hint of amazement in his eyes. "I don't know." She fumbled for words. Abby gave him a sullen glare and he silenced. Well, it was really hard to introduce myself. Hasten to say who you are or I'll close the door. It sounded she was getting mad. "It's me, your sister," I said it quickly. But Abby looked angrier that she exclaimed firmly, "You aren't my sister." Jasper was also shocked. Although he said nothing, I could feel his look was raving. "That what the hell were you speaking?" "Beat it," Abby said, and shoved me heavily with her elbow. I quickly gripped the door and yelled, "Abby, I am Kathy and I am back." Her gaze roamed over me, and she said with great joy, "Kathy!" She hugged me. I didn't realize that a hug from my sister would be so warm. Her hug was stronger than every time she had hugged me before, as if holding me wasn't quite enough. She had to feel every pound that I was pressed into every pound that was she. I heard her sob, and tears also flooded, like the waters rushing down from a waterfall in my face. Then she let go of me. She was eating me with her eyes, running her hand through my hair as if she couldn't believe I was here in front of her eyes. She croaked, "Don't go, not again." "I won't, Abby," I said while we walked into the room. My heart softened as I understood that I had a sister who I could depend on. "Thanks, Abby. Now I have a family again." Kathy's paw. "Our love is 6 feet under. I can't help but wonder, if our grave was watered by the rain, would roses bloom? Could roses bloom again?" Listening to the music, I rode on the motorcycle Joy bought me and went to school. I prayed in my mind that I wouldn't meet Sidney on the first day. Last time I saw him in a dance ball, he cried and said he missed me, but it was just ridiculous. I became so anxious, guessing all kinds of reasons for him to say he missed me. However, it turned out to be that he just got drunk. He drank so many wines and said a shit of nonsense. "She is pretty," I heard one of my schoolmates exclaimed when I took off my headphone and helmet. So many students looked at me, although some of them pretended they didn't. I kept my head down and my gaze on the floor. Even though I was beautiful now, I hadn't accustomed to the probing gazes from others. You knew, in the past, most of the gazes were full of disgust and hate. Attention had brought me only trouble, like bullying or abuse. "Is she a new schoolmate? God, I want to be her deskmate." An unfamiliar voice said. I tried to ignore them. Staring at the ground, I walked to the teacher's office. A blonde handed me my schedule. I was lucky, as this term just began. I meant I would be less like an outsider. Gosh, the first class was statistics taught by Mr. Robert. I had to visit the B corridor and classroom B307. However, a girl, tall and slender, wearing a yellow dress, attracted my attention when I was on my way. Her long and wavy black hair was so smooth and silky, as if it was tailored from black fabric. She was kissing a handsome boy very passionately. The name of Carol bounced around inside my skull. I was totally stunned and unable to speak it. You knew, Carol was the only friend I had in this school. She never let her hair grow in the past 18 years, and she only had an interest in girls. The girl finished the kiss and noticed me, giving a questioning look. I guessed it was because my eyes and mouth were frozen wide open in an expression of shock. She kept staring at me when she talked about something with the boy. He glanced at me and left. Then the girl walked straight to me and smiled. "Little bunny, why did you stare at me?" She even pinched my jaw. What on earth was she doing? I pushed her hands away. "Hi, Carrot," I greeted. The smile disappeared from her face. She hated eating carrot and being called as Carrot. But I was an exception who could call her in this way, because all the carrot juice her mother made was poured into my stomach when we were young. "I am not Carrot," she shouted at me. "But you are Carrot," I said. Her girlish face overlapped with the one in my memory when she got angry. "Stop calling me this way." No, she was truly mad. "It's me, Carrot," I said. But Carol didn't recognize me, as she even cursed me. "Shut up, bitch, or I will make it with my slap." "But it was me, you stupid," I whined. Carol gazed over me, and she looked still confused. There was a deep frown on her face. "Do I know you?" she asked, with her eyes widely open. Okay, I would help her remember me. "Carol White, you played fire when you were 7, which almost burned your house." Carol was shocked by what I said, and I just continued. "You hated the heels your mother bought and threw it to the bin secretly." "My kitty kitten Kathy," she shouted triumphantly, and gave me a bear hug as she always did. "Carrot," I threw myself on him, hanging in her neck. "I missed you so much." She caught me by my waist, with a big smile on her face. It took several minutes for both of us to calm down. "You become gorgeous," Carol praised. "I didn't even recognize you at the first glance." "You also changed a lot," You were a boyish girl who was proud of wearing rainbow ties and a rubber bracelet. Now she looked so girlish and gave up all her rainbow things. Carol was so embarrassed that she blushed scarlet. She rubbed her head and explained, "Well, I had a relationship with a girl, but she cheated on me, and she didn't love shewolf at all and screwed with hewolves. Making my mind to revenge, I seduced her boyfriend. Then I realized boys weren't that sucked. That's how everything happened." Oh my God, how many things had happened when I wasn't here? How did you find she had no interest in shewolf? Well, loving a shewolf was good, but being a bisexual girl, also good. As long as Carol could feel happy, everything would be okay. Someone told me. A hint of guilt occurred in her eyes. Why? Then I noticed Sidney step toward us. Well, my mate became even more glitter after a year. I meant he grew taller and stronger. His tousled dark brown hair was thick and lustrous. He had dark eyebrows while his eyes were ocean blue. If there was something different, it must be his expressions. His usually playful smile had been replaced by a poker face. I could only feel lucky that my wolf was quite under the effect of these pills I ate to lose weight that he couldn't recognize me. "Hey, how are things? Who's this chick?" Sidney said while he hugged Carol, with a hint of a smile in his eyes. Were my eyes playing tricks? They just greeted each other like best friends. "Carol, I can't understand. You became friends with this jerk?" Kathy's POV. The laughter evaporated from Sidney's eyes. Jerk? It was easy to tell from his mien that he felt offended. "Why do you call me a jerk? We meet for the first time, don't we?" Whatever. I just took him as Mr. Cellophane and ignored him directly. I stared at Carol. "I don't know why you become friends with this jerk, but I think you better give me an explanation in the lunch break." Carol called my nickname and wanted to say something, but I had already run away. On the one hand, I didn't want to say anything to Sidney. On the other hand, it was my first class at school, so obviously I didn't want to be late. I still couldn't accept that Carol and Sidney become friends, but Carol was a friend that I knew since we wore diapers. Mr. Robert entered the classroom and started his teaching. In the beginning, everything was fine, and I tried to listen to him carefully. However, my eyelids were drooping over the dry academic phrases and infinite calculations. I set my textbook up and used it to hide my face. Therefore, Mr. Robert couldn't notice that I fell asleep. But the textbook fell when my head hit it, whose noise awoke me. Opening my eyes, I found all the students were laughing at me. Mr. Robert stared at me with his cold gaze, but he let me go this time. I couldn't sleep anymore, and I tried to act like a good girl, but it was hard. Although I was in the classroom, my thought had traveled out. I remembered that I didn't tell Carol why I left there for a whole year, so she didn't know it was all because of Sidney. There were so many students in this school. Why must she become friends with Sidney? Damn, meeting Sidney made my wolf fright. She had been staying quiet since I was refused by him last time, and she became more silent due to the pills I ate to lose weight. The bell finally rang, but I couldn't go to the dining hall at once because Mr. Robert asked me to collect the quiz paper and send it to his office. What the fuck? Why did Sidney show up in the teacher's office? I put these quiz papers down and rushed out. I didn't want to greet him. Cat, he followed me. As an alpha, he ran faster than me that he easily caught me. Cat, why do you avoid me? He asked and grasped my arms. I don't even know you. I got rid of his hand. Why couldn't I avoid you? Besides, stop calling me that. You don't know me, but you call me a jerk, he said with a smirk. I am Sidney Winchester, Carol's friend. Although we had a bad beginning, I believe we can correct it at present. Nice to meet you. He reached his hand to me. Great. Was this the way he had seduced so many beautiful girls? I had to find Carrot, I said and intended to leave. He stopped me with his slender arms. Why can you call her Carrot? She hates this name the most. Because I am her best friend. Gam, I just wanted to leave. I was afraid that I might be identified if I continued to talk. I haven't seen you before at this school. I heard you just transferred. How could you become her best friend within one day? His probing gaze landed on me. God, why was he so difficult to handle? It's none of your business, Mr. Nosy. I couldn't let him discover my identity before I took revenge. I've told you my name was Sidney, and you could call me Sid. He even smiled at me, his usually playful smile. Heck, I felt my wolf was excited. She wanted to feel how his lips moved a kiss and how his hands followed the curves of my body. Be quiet, I told my wolf silently. I was so feared that I would be recognized by him under the telepathic connection between our wolves. He was your mate, my wolf said. A mate who refused me, I yelled in my mind. My wolf became silent. Let's go to lunch together. I just have something to talk with Carol. To my surprise, he suddenly said. He didn't say anything when we walked to the dining hall. And I kept thinking, what's the best way to take my revenge? Was it a good idea to make him fall in love with me and kick him out? He said I was disgusting. I was curious about how his face would be like when he knew he dated with his mate, that he used to feel disgusting. It's stupid. He wants you and you want him. My wolf spoke again. No, I just want a revenge. I said, your mate and you're destined. Shut up. He hurt me first. He must pay. Here, Kat and Sid. Carol waved her hands. I sat beside Carol while Sid sat against me. There is a music concert this Saturday. Would you two guys want to attend? Carol suggested. Yes, I'd like it. I said to Carol, but glanced at Sidney. I'd love to either, he said. Abby. I called her name on seeing her, and Jasper found the seat. How's everything going? Abby asked while sat down beside Sidney. Wonderful, I answered after recalling what happened today. After all, I got a plan to revenge on Sidney. Oh, I just remembered there was someone else who also should pay. For instance, the little bitch Bella, who always made fun of me, and the silly potato who shoved me and made me hit the shelf and heavily injured. I should find him out. Sidney's POV. The girl named Kat attracted my attention. God, I even didn't know her true name, but she tried to avoid me. If I didn't catch her, she must have run away. Gosh, she was so familiar. I heard my wolf speaking. Do you know who she is? I asked silently. Not sure, but she is beautiful. My wolf was getting excited. Calm down. You're making things worse. Kat didn't look like the kind of easy she-wolf. I don't think so. Why not just ask about her full name? Or you could touch her. I could figure it out if you touch her. Touch her? I reached out my hands and waited for her to shake, but she refused. I tried to find out if there was any hint by asking her questions. And apparently, she wasn't that cooperative. Damn, who the hell was this gal? The only thing I could do was to create more chances to chat with her. Carol called her Kat. Kat could be a nickname for so many names, like Kathleen, Katrina, Caitlin, and Kathrine. No, she couldn't be Kathrine. It's weird, but I just realized that I didn't miss Kathy anymore after Kat appeared. Carol was asking if we wanted to attend the concert, and Kat said yes. Of course, I should attend. She smiled when I agreed to attend the concert. Her smile face became a lingering image in my mind. She knew Abby? OMG, who was this hot chick? Anyway, there was enough time ahead of us, a whole term. Kathy's POV. We were werewolves. Why should we study vampires? They lived far away from us, and we seldom had conflicts. I bent over the desk, scribbling on my notebook. Vampires are something very smart while they're vicious. Although they have already invented the replacement of human blood, they keep hunting humans just to show off their power. Miss Ursula burbled on about vampires, but the whole class was really boring. I glanced at my watch. There were 5 minutes left. I just lied on the desk and listened to the tick of my watch. Finally, the bell sounded for the end of class. I grasped my backpack and rushed out. Today's study was over. I jumped to my motorcycle and drove to a fast food shop. I must get there earlier than Abby. We'd agreed that we would meet at the shop, and the one who came later paid for the bill. We always played such kinds of little games. When I arrived, I rushed to the counter. However, in a rush, I bumped into someone. Kat? I looked up, only to find it was Sidney. And I noticed Abby also entered the shop. Gosh, why did he just haunt me like a ghost that I could meet him everywhere I went? Sorry, I tried to push him away. That's not a good attitude to apologize. He grasped my sleeves. No, Abby was marching closer to the counter. I grasped her sleeves when she passed by. You bitch! Abby shouted and managed to wiggle free. Stop her, please, I said to Sidney. What? He released me. Although he looked confused, he followed my words. Wait! Abby yelled to Sidney, but I ran to the counter already. A chicken salad, takeout, I ordered, and Abby also got rid of Sidney. It's unfair. You gotta help her, Abby argued. Come on, how many times had Jasper stopped me? I said. Okay, you win, Abby said and studied the menu. Hello? Sidney stepped to me. Hi. I remembered the plan that I had to seduce him and abandon him. Your face is stamped with hostility. Why? He asked. Are you joking? I squeezed a fake smile. But he continued speaking. I know you are trying to hide some things in front of me. I'll find it out. My heart skipped a beat. Did he know something already? At the same time, my wolf was happy. Did you betray me? I asked my wolf. It's impossible that he'd discover my little tricks without her betrayal. No, I didn't, my wolf said. Why are you so happy? He wants you. Can't you feel it? My wolf asked. He's a jerk if he wants a girl who isn't his mate, I said to my wolf, who became silent. Sidney was still staring at me. Maybe what he said was just a bluff. Anyway, it wasn't a good idea to stay here. See you tomorrow. I grasped the salad and rushed to my motorcycle. When I just wore my helmet, I noticed Sidney was staring at me, although he didn't follow me. When our eyes met, he smirked. I started the motor and left. When I arrived at my home, I realized that Jo was waiting for me. She noticed the salad in my hand and was very disappointed. How's your first day? Why not just back home and eat? Sidney's POV. Have you known who she is? I asked my wolf when I realized the girl who ran into me was Kat. You only touched her sleeve, not her skin. Come on, why are you so excited if you don't know who she is? She is hiding something, my wolf replied. Hiding something? I didn't understand, but I saw her eyes widened when I said it. Things became interesting. Just touch her, grasp her hand or hug her. My wolf egged me. She won't like it. I refused. Then how could you figure out who she is? Was there a glint of mockery in my wolf's voice? You have already known who she is, haven't you? My wolf didn't reply. Tell me who she is if you know it. This girl is driving me crazy. She is so hot and cute. Don't worry, you'll have the chance to save her tomorrow. Save her? What do you mean? Have you talked with her wolf and schemed something? Yes, we talked. You're just so stupid in love. Cupid once shot on you, but you pulled the arrow out. You won't discover what love is if we didn't play the role of Cupid and fire another arrow directly at your heart. Are you still my wolf? What the fuck are you talking about? That's why you could seduce the C-cup girl, while you couldn't even get a C in Introduction to Werewolf. Pay more attention to your study, dude. You can tell me straightly who she is, can't you? Not the right time. Then when? Maybe tomorrow, whenever she gave up her plan. What plan? My wolf didn't say anything. I could only watch the girl leave. Damn, even her dark figure could make my heartbeat fastened. And there was an air of expectation and great curiosity inside me that I truly hoped time could fly faster and tomorrow could come. Kathy's POV. Joy didn't blame me for I chose to eat outside. You could spend your time with Abby as long as you wish. Your siblings. But do remember your cute aunt when you buy delicious food. Joy was always so considerable and nice. I kissed her cheeks and kept thinking, would she really want to eat the salad I buy? I mean, the salad was healthy, but not that yummy. Today was good until I felt my stomach ached. The salad I ate might be something unclean or bad. I visited the toilets at least 5 times before I could finally lie on my bed. When I arrived at school the next morning, I deliberately rushed to my class without greeting anyone. Okay, I guess nobody had noticed me as I just rushed so fast. I didn't want to chat with anyone. I wasn't recovered from the Sidney's POV. I swear that I haven't loved our school like this moment before. I saw the motorcycle of Kat, this red behemoth. She had arrived already. Her helmet hung on the handlebars. I touched it, imagining I was touching her head. She was so cute. You'd better stop smirking. It's silly, my wolf said. Shut up. I walked to my classroom. So when and where should I save her? I chatted with my wolf. Let nature take its course. Wait, you couldn't just make me dangling? What's your stupid scheme with her, wolf? Don't worry, you will know it sooner. Okay, let me see what would happen later. Damn, today would be better if there wasn't Mr. Jared's class. He bared his nicotine-stained teeth when he was talking, which were all crooked, and he would walk into the students instead of just standing on the platform. Didn't he know he got a foul breath like the stink of stale beer? Finally, the class ended and it's time for lunch. As usual, I crossed the corridor to get to the dining hall. However, I heard voices coming from upstairs. You're crazy. It was Kat's voice. She was on the top floor? And she quarreled with someone? I ran upstairs and saw a group of students gathered in a circle. You little bitch. How dare you to seduce my mate? Through the crowd, I saw Bella reached her hand towards Kat's face. What happened? I tried to find a way to approach them, but it was hard to cross the thick students. Kat stopped Bella with her arms. However, Bella managed to scratch a wound with her claws. Bella was shifting into the wolf. But Kat took the opportunity to push Bella, slamming her to the wall. If you aren't a slut who tried to trip me when I passed just because of your poor jealousy, you wouldn't be abandoned by your stupid mate, Kat shouted. Sweat poured down her face, but didn't affect her beauty. Bella yelled in pain while she fought back. Shut up, coquette. Without you, we couldn't break up. Kat's beautiful hair had been pulled mercilessly, but she shoved Bella smartly with her elbow, which made Belle fall hard on her bottom. You'll pay for it, Bella exclaimed while she started to search for someone in the crowd. I had a nasty feeling that she would represent a danger to Kat. Get out of my way, I shouted, but there was still a thin human shield in front of me. Someone stole out of the crowd, carrying a glass bottle in hand. Damn, it was Alex. He had the gut to do anything getting enough money. You fuck, get out of my way! I yelled with the power of alpha. Students gave me away under my dominating alpha spirit. The whole world was thrown into silence, except her sobs echoed in my ears. It was because of pain. The students ran off. They didn't want to face the anger of an alpha. Alex knelt down, begging for forgiveness. I ignored him and stepped to my girl. She curled up in a tight ball, with her knees tucked up at her chin and her hands wrapped around her head, evidently in pain. And around her were the pieces of glass. Her head was bleeding. I took off my clothes to stop the bleeding of her wound. Don't touch the wound, I'll deal with it. Thanks. She followed my words and put down her hands. I glanced at her face, tears flowing down rapidly. I just did what a friend should. When I touched the wound, I felt my heart was hurting. Wait, I touched something hard. A piece of glass, like a sharp knife, pierced her scalp. It might hurt, I warned before I pulled it out. Kat clenched her fists to stop herself trembling from pain. Damn, she looked heavily injured. God, please stop the bleeding. Finally, I bound her wound up. Don't worry, Kathy is okay. My wolf comforted. Thus, I can get my breath back. I felt relieved. Wait, Kathy? Oh no, I spilled the beans, my wolf mumbled. Kathy? I couldn't help but spoke her name, and I saw her eyes widely open. She was my mate? Kathy? Doom. Fuck my life. Kathy's POV. What the hell? He called my name? He recognized me? My wolf became excited. Hug him. Kiss him. Impossible. I'll never kiss a man who had rejected me and scolded me. He wasn't my knight, although he was supposed to be. He knew he was wrong. You see, he was begging for your forgiveness. I looked at Sidney. He became glazed with a glossy layer of tears. As he blinked, they dripped from his eyelids and slid down his cheeks. He seemed to be very regretful that he even bit his lips tightly. But he was a jerk. When our eyes met, almost as a reflex action, I pushed him away. With all my efforts, I ran downstairs, ignoring the pain in my forehead. Kathy! His yell came from my back. Wait, Kathy! Without glancing at Sidney and just hearing his voice, I could imagine that he would like a powder keg and spark flying from his lips. Hearing his footfall behind me, I fastened my steps and finally got to the park. My cool big motorcycle stood here. I jumped on it and quickly wore my helmet. Kathy, don't run, or you will drive Sidney crazy. Alpha couldn't bear his mate run away from him. His rage would destroy everything. My wolf tried to stop me. No, I should run. I didn't know why, but I was sure that I had to run. Stop, Kathy. The Alpha's voice was ordering my wolf. She was going to take control of my body. Sidney had also arrived at the park, but he came late as I had already started the engine. No, please, Kathy, no. Sidney was howling. So what? He deserved it. He deserved all my hatred. But his alpha spirit did have an effect on me. I must escape this place at once. Otherwise, my wolf would force me to mate with him. Gathering all my wits, I rode away. I didn't back to the home of Abby and me. Instead, I drove to Joy's house. Someone roared in bitterness and anger far away. But I didn't care. All I wanted now was to stay in my room and take a long rest. Sidney's POV. Pain washed over me like the long, slow waves on a shallow beach. I looked at the stairs where she had just left. She ran in front of my eyes. She didn't want to be with me. No. I must find a way back and make it right. Find her, catch her, and take her back to my life. But where would she be? Images that Kathy with Abby, with Carol, with Jasper flashed in my mind. They all knew it. They all knew she was my mate, but no one told me. Rage of my mate's escape and friend's betrayal came out faster than magma, and were the same destructive. My wolf was controlling my body that I just rushed to the dining hall. Students should be eating there as it was lunchtime. Releasing all my alpha power, I could hear objects broke and unfamiliar roars from the crowd. They sounded feared. Abby? Carol? I shouted. Who the fuck could tell me where she is? Listening to my roar, students gave me away to Abby and Jasper, who were sitting at one table. I rushed to them. She ran. Tell me where she is. Who the hell are you talking about? Abby asked. Kathy. Abby's tooth turned into a fang once she heard the name. She turned into wolf shape and tried to resist my power. If she ran, it must be your fault. Tell me where she is. I grasped her arms, but she pushed my hands off. No way. She ran means that you are the last one she wants to see. That wasn't something I wanted to hear. I grabbed her neck and intended to throw her to the wall. But another paw had stopped my actions. It was from Jasper. Calm down, he said. I released Abby and grasped him instead. Tell me where she is, I growled and strangled his neck. He became breathless, but he didn't reply. Abby kept hammering me with her paws. Let go of him. But it didn't make me feel pain at all. She was just a beta and her power was weak. I want her back, I yelled, and strengthened my force on Jasper's neck, whose face went red without enough breath. She lived with my aunt in the only wooden house in the town, Abby said with a crying voice. Damn, I had forgotten that Abby was her sister. They should live together. God, I should have remembered it. I threw Jasper aside and left the dining hall. In wolf shape, I could arrive at her house within 10 minutes. Joy's POV. I was sipping my coffee and reading the newspaper when I noticed the spirit of Alpha. Bang. The crazy Alpha was knocking on my door and yelling for Kathy. I folded the paper neatly. The news wasn't that interesting, compared with an Alpha who was crazy for my niece. He started hitting the door. and the door was crumbling. Luckily, my sweet lambkin always wore earplugs when she slept, so she couldn't be wake up by the loud noise. I watched him from the peephole. His fur was raising, might because of his anger or pain. I couldn't open the door for him. A crazy alpha could be destructive. "Open the door, hag!" He discovered I was peeping. It was impolite to call a she-wolf who was just 30 years old a hag, and it was worse to break my door. "Where is Kathy? I want to see her." He looked at me, as I had interposed myself between him and the doorway. "Listen, dude, it looks like you're as nutty as a fruitcake, and I can't let a madman see my niece. Calm down first. Let me see her." "No way unless you calm down. You'll scare her. You may even hurt her." "Hurt her?" He looked at me in blank amazement, and he was shifting from wolf to human. "Sorry, madam. Can I see her now?" He stared at my eyes sincerely after he was in human shape. Her room was at the end of the corridor on the second floor. I gave him the way. "Thanks." He took a deep breath and began to climb the stairs. If I had to use a sentence to describe my niece's mate, I could only say he is not that bad. Sidney's POV. I entered the room. Pictures on the wall attracted my attention first, most of which were Abby and her from childhood to grown-up. And Carol also appeared in these pictures. She was her only friend in school. I hoped my pictures could be pasted on this wall. Then I noticed her bed. She lay in bed looking frail, with a blue quilt wrapping her body. I stepped closer to her, noticing that she had slept with earplugs stuffed up her ears. Sitting down, I ran my greedy eyes over her face. Finally, she backed and was in front of my eyes, my mate, my love. Gently, I left a kiss on her forehead and laid down beside her. I focused my eyes on her until I couldn't hold my heavy eyelids.